It was a quiet evening in the living room. Nothing unusual, nothing planned. The television flickered with some random show, the kind you put on just to fill the silence. I sat there, legs curled under me on the couch, absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone. My husband wasn't home again, another late night at work, or maybe just another excuse to stay away. Lately, it felt like he was always somewhere else, even when he was right beside me. But tonight, it wasn't him sitting next to me. It was someone who had become almost like family, someone I trusted enough to let into my home without a second thought. He was casual, relaxed, laughing lightly at the TV, his arms stretched out on the back of the couch, just close enough that I could feel the warmth of his presence. I told myself there was nothing wrong with it. It was innocent. After all, he wasn't doing anything. Neither was I. Still, I couldn't ignore the subtle way the air shifted when we sat together. The silence wasn't empty. It was charged. Every movement felt magnified. When his knee brushed against mine, I pretended it was nothing. When his shoulder leaned closer, I told myself I was imagining it. And when his laughter rumbled low in his chest, I felt it far too deeply for it to mean nothing. My heart was restless that night, searching for something I hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe it was the lack of attention at home, the endless waiting, the way my husband's love had grown colder with each passing day. I didn't plan for anything to happen. I didn't even want it to. Or maybe, deep down, I wanted it more than I admitted to myself. The moment came so suddenly, so quietly, that I almost convinced myself it was a mistake. His hand slipped from where it rested and brushed against me. Just a touch. Just long enough for me to feel it. I froze, waiting for him to pull back, to apologize, to make it seem like nothing. But he didn't. And neither did I. I should have moved. I should have laughed it off or shifted away, but I stayed there, completely still, pretending the television had all of my attention. My chest rose and fell faster, my palms pressed against my lap, but I didn't push him away. That tiny choice, that silence, spoke louder than words. He must have known I felt it. He must have known I was aware. And in that silence, a dangerous understanding passed between us. I kept my eyes on the screen, pretending the room hadn't just changed, pretending I wasn't aware of the weight of his hand lingering where it shouldn't have been. The voices from the television felt distant, muffled, almost unreal compared to the rush of blood pounding in my ears. I should have said something, anything. But the truth was I didn't want to. The warmth of his touch spread slowly, carefully, as though he was waiting for my reaction, testing my silence. And I gave him nothing. I stayed still, caught between guilt and something far more dangerous, desire. My mind screamed at me that this was wrong, that I was married, that I should push him away. Yet my body betrayed me, leaning ever so slightly closer, as if drawn to the one thing I shouldn't have. It felt like time stretched on endlessly. Neither of us spoke, but everything was being said in that quiet. A glance from the corner of my eye caught his, and in that look I saw the question, the hesitation, and the hunger. My lips parted, but no words came out. Instead, I let the silence give him the answer I was too afraid to say out loud. His fingers shifted, no longer by accident, no longer pretending. The touch became deliberate. My breath caught in my throat, and every nerve in me woke up in ways I hadn't felt in so long. The emptiness I carried inside, the loneliness that had been building for months, suddenly filled with this dangerous closeness. I thought about my husband, about all the nights I waited for him, about the way I'd grown used to being invisible in my own marriage. That thought should have been enough to stop me, but instead it only made me stay. I wanted to feel seen again, wanted to feel like a woman again, wanted something more than the cold distance I had been living with. A quiet laugh from him broke the tension for a moment, low and knowing, as though we were both aware of the line we were balancing on. My pulse raced, and my hands trembled as I pressed them tighter together. I told myself I wasn't really doing anything, that it was just a touch, that I could still pull away if I wanted to. But I didn't. The longer it went on, the heavier the air became. Every small movement, every stolen glance, every second of silence was pulling us deeper into something neither of us, would be able to take back. And still, I stayed frozen, letting it happen, letting him know without words that I wasn't going to stop him. It was no accident anymore. It was a choice. The air between us had shifted completely, thick with something unspoken yet undeniable. His hand was no longer uncertain, no longer hesitant. It was firm now, steady, moving with intention. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might give me away, yet I didn't pull back. I couldn't. Every inch of me screamed that this was the moment, the point where a choice had to be made. I could still stop, I could still laugh it off, shift away, and pretend it had never happened. But I didn't. I let the silence answer for me, and in that silence, I gave him permission. When he leaned closer, his breath brushed against my skin, warm and dangerous. I turned my head slightly, not to move away, but to meet him halfway. The moment his lips touched mine, everything inside me unraveled. My body betrayed the vows I had made long ago, and my soul trembled with a mix of guilt and desperate relief. It wasn't gentle or innocent. It was hungry, the kind of hunger that comes from years of being starved of touch, of affection, of feeling like you matter. I melted into him, into the danger, into the fire that I knew would burn me later. And yet, for that moment, I didn't care. My mind tried to remind me of who I was, of the ring I wore, of the life I was risking. But my heart whispered louder, telling me how alive I felt, how wanted, how desperately I had missed this feeling. Every kiss, every touch, every shiver down my spine felt like something I had been aching for, even though I knew it was wrong. The television still played in the background, a faint reminder of normal life, but the world outside that couch no longer existed. All that mattered was him, his hands, his closeness, the way I couldn't bring myself to stop him. For the first time in so long, I wasn't invisible.
Someone wanted me. Someone saw me.
And in that moment, I gave in completely. I crossed the line I once thought I never would. There was no turning back now. The morning light felt heavier than usual, slipping through the curtains and cutting across the room like a reminder of everything I had done. I sat at the edge of my bed, my hands pressed tightly together, my chest hollow and restless. The house was quiet, but inside me there was a storm that wouldn't calm. I replayed the night over and over, every touch, every kiss, every second I had chosen not to stop. It wasn't an accident anymore.
It was me.
I let it happen, and worse, I wanted it to happen. My body had betrayed my vows, but more than that, my silence had betrayed my heart. When I looked at him this morning, he didn't say much. Just a brief glance, almost casual, as if what we had shared was something that didn't need words. Maybe for him it wasn't as complicated. Maybe it was just the thrill, the danger, the closeness of the moment. But for me, it was so much heavier. I carried it with me like a shadow that wouldn't leave. I thought about my husband, about the life we had built, about the nights I spent waiting for him while he worked late or avoided my eyes across the dinner table. I thought about the years of loneliness, the slow distance that grew between us like a wall I couldn't climb. That emptiness had led me here, but knowing that didn't excuse it. Nothing could excuse it. Every sound in the house felt sharp. The creak of the floor, the hum of the fridge, like they were accusing me, whispering truths I wanted to bury. I wanted to tell myself it was just one mistake, one moment of weakness, but deep inside I knew the truth. It wasn't just weakness. It was a choice I made, a choice that changed everything. I didn't know if my husband would ever find out. Maybe he never would. Maybe this secret would stay locked inside me forever. But even if it did, the guilt was already here, pressing against me, heavy and suffocating. I could see his face in my mind, the trust in his eyes, the life we had promised each other, and I knew I had broken it. I told myself I wouldn't let it happen again, that I would be stronger, that I would close that door forever. But part of me also feared the truth, that a single touch, a single moment of silence, had already pulled me down a path I could never completely turn back from. Because it started so simply. Just his hand slipping, and me not moving. One choice. One silence. And nothing would ever be the same again.